Back in the paint booth the next day. Our second coat of urethane has dried, and we're just checking to see what kind of results we've got. I mentioned yesterday a nice way to check your finish is to lay a piece down with the sun behind it so you can check the sheen. What you're looking for is a nice even gleam. I'm happy with what I'm seeing here. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick this up, but if you're looking down your piece, it should be flat. You should see an even reflection of light. If at this point you see fingerprints, poplar fluff, big streaks, you have failed, and you're going to have some sanding to do. I mean, we're going to sand anyway, but this is looking good. Okay, so we've got our second coat on here now, second coat of urethane, and we want to stain it down and get ready for what will hopefully be a final coat. Sometimes you do have to do 4 coats, depending on what you're working on and the way things are going, the results you want. Honestly, for these, these are just little shelf parts of my entertainment unit that I'm building. They don't have to be perfect. I'm sure the 3 is fine. This is one of the sides that had that pronounced grain. Had a lot of fibers come up on it, and it's a little bit rougher than I would like. So what we're going to do here is wet sanding using some orbital sanders to give us a little more horsepower than we did yesterday with just the hand block. And one correction from yesterday, I told you I had 1500 grit on here. This is actually 2000. I noticed that when I changed the paper today. So I would imagine this is 2000 grit on this orbital sander as well. This is something I don't normally do, but because this is a little rougher than I want, I'm going to use some 400 grit on it first. And I'm getting a little leery even doing that because you really don't want to cut through this and get down to the stain layer. I'll know if I do that if I see brown on this pad. And worse, if you can see the bare wood kind of peeking through where you've cut it down. That's what you really don't want. But I just want to take one pass at it to try to get her a little smoother. I'm going to put some. It's handy to have a little spray bottle or something to help you get your water on, but you can just use your hands too. Slather around a bit. You can dry sand this. It doesn't really matter. But one of the reasons I like to wet sand it is the fine sawdust the fine dust that is generated by sanding this urethane is also something you really don't want in your lungs. It's quite toxic. And when you get a bit of water on here, what happens is that the dust mixes in with the water, and you get this kind of milky white paste on the wood that you can easily wipe off. And I'd rather have that than all that little dust in the air, because that stuff is so fine, it's going to go through almost any respirator. Okay, so again, like I said, it's handy if you can have a couple dedicated sanders, so you're not always switching paper. A buddy left this at my house a while ago. He didn't even want it anymore. He was tired of changing the paper. It's kind of a difficult quarter sheet to find. And I agree with him. I wouldn't have used it for anything other than putting 1 grit of sandpaper on and leaving it. But it's handy because now I've got my 2000 grit on that sander. When I'm ready to do fine sanding, I can just grab it. This one's a little easier to change because it's the Velcro. But 400 is about as fine these pads as I can find. So, give her a quick pass. Cross your fingers. Well, no major stain on there. It's a little gunkier up. I think we're okay. Help smooth it a bit. It's not gonna. This side is not gonna be like glass, and I'm okay with that. So let's move on to our 2000 grit. Oh, nice. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. It's nice and smooth now. Like I said, I can feel, you know, those kind of micro ridges where the grain is. But it's good. And if it's good enough, if you're happy with it, leave it. Because you do not want to cut through this urethane coating. That's, at this stage, that's disaster. That's nice and smooth. Another note, I've got a towel on my work surface now because we really need to be careful with keeping this stuff clean. Don't want anything abrasive on our work surface that could, you know, cause scratches or gouges we don't notice when we flip it over. And this side's nice and smooth, so I'm not going to put the 400 on it. I'm just going to go right to my 2000. Yeah, and that 2000 grit, when you got a little water on a smooth piece of wood like this, it just glides along. It's neat. Doesn't feel like you're sanding wood at all. Because you're not, I guess. Yeah. That's good. So, I will just wet kind of this whole thing, this whole side down. Sides with the orbital. Oh, nice. And yeah, you'll see your surface take on that cloudy, whitish appearance now when it dries. And that's okay. That's what's supposed to happen. That shows that you've sanded it down flat. But once we spray over it again, we will get the intended gloss of whatever finish it is we're spraying. Because we're spraying satin, it's not particularly glossy anyway. But even if you were sanding down a high gloss, you would still see it turn that cloudy white. But it would be back to nice and shiny once you shoot it again. The edges, just using a little piece by hand. So you want to take it easy on these. And I'll run the block over this too. So that's the sanding of our second coat. I will take a wet cloth and clean this up. Make sure I get all that pasty powdery stuff off it and let it dry. And then I will shoot the final coat on.